I started out by getting an overall measurement of how high I wanted my landing to be. And then I went in and got on the graph paper and started planning it out. I used a plumb bob to help me determine exactly where the upstairs landing was going to be. And then I used a square to help me determine where to dig the holes for the footers for the upper landing and the mid-level landing. I went ahead and built the frame, pulled some string lines, and tried to keep everything as square as I could. Then I cut the little cylinders, put them in the holes, made sure I was getting the post brace exactly where they were supposed to go. Once I've checked and made sure I've got the center of that pretty much where I want it, then I'll go ahead and backfill around this cylinder. Firm that soil in there good. Pretty good. I think that maybe just a little bit too much, but that screed stick will take care of any excess. I'm going to go ahead and install my J-hook. I like this concrete to be just a little bit kind of lumpy and thick, not too watery, otherwise this J-hook will try to sink down in there. Last screw in the mid-level deck. So now I've gotten a 2x4, the straightest 2x4 I got. And I've set it up out here so that it's just real level as I could get it. And that's going to give me a mark underneath here. That's the critical mark right there. And from that I'll go 54 inches up this post, and that'll tell me where the top of my mid-level deck should be. Just to make sure these bolt heads aren't getting in the way, I'm putting a little countersink in there just to get them out of the way of those runners. When it filled out, I'll wait for it to stop and then smooth it over. Got it screeded off good, so let me bust the form off this thing. Now I've got a piece of scrap plywood, 1/2 inch, that I'm going to use to kind of practice on so I don't tear up one of my nice 2x12s. Now on the layout, I'm going to start at the very bottom of the stairs, but you don't want to start right on the very edge, because you want to have a full rise at the very beginning step. You want to make sure you're getting your full rise worth, and that is, to be able to tell how much that is, we're I think rising 6 3/4, so I can bring this back up until I'm, you know, at least 6 3/4. There's just a little more than 7. I'll leave myself just a little extra room, so that's where I'm going to start my first layout mark. This can be the 6 3/4 at least. That'll be at the very bottom of the step, and then this will be the very first tread right here on the long side, and then we'll bring that over and we'll get our rise marked. Get a nice sharp corner there. Now we're just going to work our way up, sliding this up. When this little bolt face comes lined up with that other mark, then it'll be ready for the next tread mark and the rise mark. And we'll just work our way up until we get 7 of these. When I put the stairs in place, or the steps, the treads, from one to the next is 6 3/4 inches, which is what it's supposed to be. So it'll be that all the way up to the top. But the very first step, even though this is 6 3/4 here, because of this tread width, going to have to be cut off the bottom down here, 1.5 inches. Now I've got my template laid out, or cut out, And I've taken off this one tread thickness on this lower riser, which will allow it to be just at the right height. Now you want to sight down your 2x12, and if it's got just the slightest little bit of a bow up or down, you want to make sure that you're putting your crown up. Now you don't want to overrun these lines with your skill saw, because it'll just end up weakening your stringer. So get in here with the jigsaw and finish it up. Now on the placement of these stair cleats, I'm coming up towards the front of the step. I've got a 1/2 inch piece of plywood here that's kind of giving me a little spacer that kicks it back off of the front of that step just a little bit. But most of the pressure is taking place on the front. Now I'm using these 1 1/4 inch lag bolts so they don't go all the way through this stringer. And they get a mind of their own and try to weeble wobble around when they hit this grain. So I pre-drill about 3/4 of an inch for each one, and then I'm using a pneumatic tool just to help drive these down. Well, the concrete finally dried up enough, the rain let up enough, and I got my stringers put together. And it turned out pretty much as planned. It's 3 feet wide, which was part of the plan, and that's on the outside stringer to outside stringer. And the way I attached it to the landing was to put in a couple of 2x6, I guess you'd call them ledger boards here. They don't run the full length, and I didn't notch that out. They're just nailed in, as you can see over here on the end. But anyway, I've got the Stair Treads Cut. They're at 33, so they'll slip in here. And I'm going to go ahead and get them put in next. Now these top 2 treads are a full 36 inches, so they go over the top of the rails. Now a couple of things to watch for is your stringer extending beyond your ledger board? Then the other thing to watch for is your landing long enough? And as you can see, man, I just barely made it right there. Turns out my upper stringers didn't really have anything to rest on. I didn't want to encroach up on the landing, the mid-level landing, so I ended up using these 2x6s and running them back to the support post, but going up to the upper landing. Alright, time to get some guardrails installed. Alright, that's the last of the handrails. Now for some balusters. Now I'm using a 4-inch block to set these balusters. The last tread is going in place. Alright, the day I've been working for is finally here. I got the stairs completed. And here they are. You can see the handrails are made out of that, I think it's 5/4 pine. And these banisters were some of the banisters that I had split 2x4s and took them off the old balcony. And you can see I didn't really use up a lot of this mid-level landing by putting the foot of the second flight on here. I'm going to let it dry for the rest of the summer at least before I try to put any stain and sealer on it. But it was quite a little undertaking. But there it is.